Humans are built for connection. God created us with community and relationships in mind. The internal drive for community can be seen throughout many facets of modern culture. Text messages and phone calls allow us for quicker connection with others. Dating apps allow us for new connections with others, and social media allows us for constant connection with others. Now, Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines social media as forms of electronic communication through which users create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content. With social media use being so prevalent in modern culture, one may be tempted to think that its use is merely casual and without any implications in our lives. But this is not the case. Social media use actually impacts the brain and is correlated with higher levels of depression in college students. So social media use impacts the brain. Liking posts on social media activates reward centers in our brains. The Journal of Social, Cognitive, and Affective Neuroscience published a study in which students were hooked up to functional magnetic resonance imaging machines, also known as fMRI machines. Now, in these studies, students were tasked with liking posts on social media and scrolling through, and the fMRI machines were able to study their brain activity. Now, when students liked a post or when they received likes on a post, there was a significant increase in brain activity in areas of the brain associated with reward. So in the graphic on the screen, you can see in section A that students who received or who gave likes on social media, those yellow areas are areas in the brain that lit up. And in section B, you see students that received likes on social media, and those are the brain areas that are lighting up. And then section C, highlighted in purple, shows the areas that correlate between the two, or that cross over. So those are some of the reward processing centers that we're talking about. Now, those same reward processing centers are actually involved in addiction. So another study published by the Journal of Clinical Investigation talks about also used fMRI machines, and it hooked patients who were struggling with drug abuse and addiction up to those machines. The brains were studied, and the brains actually lit up in the exact same spots that some of the social media studies did, and that shows the correlation between addiction and social media use. So when people like a post, the reward centers of the brain activate. This contributes to the addictive nature of social media. And all of this is just to say that social media is not pervasive, but it actually does invade our lives and have an impact on our brains. So those apps on your phone may not be as passive as you think. A lot more is going on behind the scenes than you may realize. Now, let's see. When people like a post or heavy social media use can have negative side effects. Depression is correlated with heavy social media use. The University of Texas Health Science Center published a review of social media studies. In that study, a quote reads, "Articles consistently showed higher correlations between loneliness, neuroticism, self-esteem, social media addiction, social media comparison, and depression in college students." Heavy social media use is correlated with higher levels of depression. And while we can't pinpoint the exact cause of the levels of depression, it is important to note the correlation. So now that you realize that social media may have negative side effects, we may be less tempted to use it so casually and so often. Now, it would be unfair of me to discredit the enormous platform that is social media without acknowledging some of its positive aspects. Social media can be used for good. An article published in Arab News documents the heartwarming story of an elderly couple whose business was saved from going under due to the COVID-19 pandemic by social media. They posted a story about what was going on in their lives on social media, and flocks of people ended up coming to their food stall to purchase their goods, and that ended up saving their business from going under. Now, the same article points out numerous organizations and activist groups that were similarly able to gain traction because of something like social media. So this evidence points to not an abolishing of social media, but merely a proper handling of the tool. Now, social media use is pervasive in our minds. It is not merely a casual supplement to our lives, but it is a part of them, actively influencing and affecting our brains and routines. Our own well-being may even be in jeopardy. Now, we are social creatures craving connection. This is not an evil desire, but one placed in us by our Creator. The challenge then is in satisfying this desire responsibly. Social media use can benefit our social lives, but it is safest to use in moderation. Our social lives will prosper most when we pursue quality over quantity in our relationships.